This draft that I wrote is called Everyday Miracles. Um, we okay, we all have those blank days, those days where you know that you did them, you know that they happened, but you have no idea what actually happened. Like you're like, I know I ate food, don't remember what it was. And then you also have days where bad days that are filled with anger or anxiety, and you just wish that they hadn't happened. And during these blank days and these bad days, it's very easy to think, to forget that God is there and God is in that day. And it can be very easy to think that it was all meaningless and that it was all pointless. And how in the world does God have a hand in any of this? And in Parshat Ve'era, I'm going to answer this question. In Parshat Ve'era, this week's Torah portion, we get 7 of the 10 plagues. There were 2 main reasons for these plagues. The first one, that is pretty obvious, is to get the Jews out of slavery, to get them out of Egypt to be free. But the second one is less obvious. And the reason why it's not just the first reason is because if it was just the first reason, God could have just teleported the Israelites out of Egypt, and they wouldn't have had to go through these 10 plagues, and Pharaoh wouldn't have had to have his heart hardened over and over again. God could have easily freed them without having to do all this. So the second reason is because God told Moshe so that you will be able to tell your children about how God made a mockery of the Egyptians, performing miraculous wonders and signs there. So it wasn't just because God wanted to free the Egyptians. He wanted to show Pharaoh that they were wrong, or the Egyptians that they were wrong. Who was the head of Egypt that God wanted to mock? It was Pharaoh. Okay, there we go. Pharaoh was the one who said, I don't know God. And in the Haftarah, he said, I was the one who fashioned the Nile. The river is mine. God sent the plagues to Egypt to show Pharaoh, a person who was a firm denier of God, that God exists. God kept sending plagues until Egypt knew that he was God. It was only then, when Pharaoh acknowledged the existence of God and pleaded with Moshe to leave with his people, it was only then that God stopped sending plagues, and it was only then that God took his people out of Egypt. In Egypt, Pharaoh had no choice but to acknowledge God's existence. Today, it is not so obvious, but he is still the one who orders our world. The Baal Shem Tov taught that God did not just create the world and then leave it. Instead, he is the one who creates every moment of its existence. Every single little thing that happens on this earth was designed by him and enabled by him. In this modern era, we have explanations for everything. We say animals behave the way they do, and the way they're created is because of their DNA. We say that DNA exists because of these molecules that connect together and form the DNA. And we say these molecules are made out of atoms. We have layers and layers of explanations, but when you get to the bottom of it, the only thing that we can say is that it works because it does. Like the laws of gravity work because they do. And we know how it would all fall apart if these laws of nature didn't work, but it's not the same as knowing why they work. And in the end, these things work because of God. God put these rules into place and built our reality on top of them. The basis of our reality is built on God. In Egypt, God showed his power over the laws of nature in an obvious way. Today, God still has power over the laws of nature, but we need to look a little bit closer in order to see God's touch. God sent the 10 plagues to show the world that he was real and that he controlled the natural order of the world. The next time you're having a blank or a bad day and you're getting out of the grocery store and you're like, ugh, bad day. And then you see that amazing, beautiful sunset in the parking lot. Remember that it was because of God. It was an everyday miracle. I remember that God is here, God is watching, and he has a plan for your life.